Hello and welcome back to Gemma Movie Recap channel. Today we'll be delving into the plot of a 2006 Japanese action war film titled Letters from Iwo Jima. This movie offers a unique perspective on the Battle of Iwo Jima during World War II, as it's narrated from the viewpoint of the Japanese soldiers who participated in it. So let's dive right into the story. But before we begin, please show your support by subscribing to our channel and hitting the notification bell for future updates. Now, let's get started.
But before we start, please support our channel by subscribing and click the bell icon for future notifications. Now, let's start.
In 2005, Japanese archaeologists explored the abandoned tunnels on Iwo Jima, a small island in Japan's Ogasawara archipelago, and made a significant discovery. Hidden in the soil was something valuable, prompting the team to unearth it. This find takes us back to 1944 during World War II, where Private First Class Saigo and Private First Class Kashiwara, both once ordinary civilians turned soldiers, are digging trenches on the beach with their platoon. Their conversation about the hardships they face catches the attention of Captain Tanada, who prepares to punish them for an unpatriotic remark. Meanwhile, Lieutenant General Tadamichi Kurebayashi, a Japanese officer with American education, arrives to take command of the garrison. Witnessing the private officer's beating, he advocates for a more humane approach to discipline and orders the unit to take a much-needed break from their duties. As the sun sets, the exhausted soldiers gather for a meal of rice and weed soup, exchanging rumors about their new leader. During the night, the officer is informed by Lieutenant Ito that their air support has diminished, as 66 planes were dispatched to aid in the Saipan battle. Discontented with the defense plan, the leader orders the fortification of Suribachi by relocating artillery to higher ground and coordinates with Colonel Adachi's army. The next day, Saigo revises a letter to his wife under the scrutiny of his superior. Captain Tanada reprimands him for poor marksmanship and assigns him the task of cleaning the entire company's boots. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Colonel Kurebayashi is dismayed by the unrepaired tanks due to a lack of replacement parts and reflects on his time in America while observing a boy drawing on the sidewalk. Later, he is elated to see his friend, Olympic gold medalist Lieutenant Colonel Baron Takechi Nishi, and his prized horse join the regiment during a beach inspection. During supper, Nishi updates Kurebayashi on the grim situation in the Mariana Islands, where Admiral Ozawa's carrier and planes were destroyed, severely crippling the Imperial Combined Fleet. At sunset, Saigo and the private officers find amusement in watching Kurebayashi and Lieutenant Fujita simulate how American fighters might engage Japanese soldiers. The following day, Kurebayashi, after careful consideration, directs the men to abandon beach trenches in favor of digging tunnel-like caves as their new defensive strategy against the impending invasion. The commanding officers protest, advocating for a head-on fight, but Lieutenant Colonel Kurebayashi emphasizes that Japan can't send reinforcements and that they must stand alone. Dysentery takes its toll on many soldiers due to poor nutrition and unsanitary conditions. Replacement troops arrive, including Superior Private Shimizu from Tokyo, who meets Private Nozaki and a disheartened Saigo, grieving the loss of his close friend, Kashiwara. The two privates harbor suspicions about Shimizu's spying on disloyal soldiers, and Saigo recounts his long-standing resentment for the military police, who repeatedly raided his home for baked goods, depleting their bread supply. Saigo's thoughts drift back to the time when he received a conscription letter, which deeply upset his wife as she pleaded unsuccessfully with the recruitment team to spare him. Saigo reassured her that he would return safely to see their newborn. As days passed, the tunnels expanded under Kurebayashi's direction. He relieved Admiral Oshuji and sent him to headquarters for support. Despite Oshugi's advice to avoid Kurebayashi, General Hayashi took charge of the regiment. Nishi overheard their conversation but was dismissed by the lieutenant colonel when Admiral Ichimaru arrived. American Air Force planes launched a sudden attack, causing casualties including Nishi's horse. Subsequent bombing raids forced the men into the tunnels for safety. While writing another letter to his family, Kurebayashi learned that U.S. warships were heading to Iwo Jima after the Saipan siege. After preparations, he rallied the troops with an inspirational speech, urging them to fight and sacrifice for their country. In the meantime, some soldiers sought solace in prayer, while Nishi and Kurebayashi finished their letters to loved ones. The pivotal moment arrived when hundreds of U.S. Marines landed on Iwo Jima's beach, leaving Imperial officers awaiting further instructions. As they closed in on the pillboxes, both sides opened fire, leading to a devastating battle with thousands of casualties. Kurabayashi received word that despite the battered defenses, their forces on Mount Suribachi remained intact. Nevertheless, the enemy relentlessly advanced with a two-pronged attack strategy, reaching beach defenses and targeting Mount Suribachi. Meanwhile, Captain Tanada instructed Saigo to report to Colonel Adaki for additional firepower, but he overheard Kurabayashi's retreat orders over the radio. Adaki, in defiance, handed Saigo a note directing the unit to commit honorable suicide. While the captain and his men followed this order, Saigo convinced Private Shimizu to continue fighting and retreat to the northern caves, as instructed by Kurabayashi. Along their journey through tunnels, they encountered displaced soldiers who killed an American soldier. Emerging from the tunnels, they faced an ambush by U.S. Marines. Later, they presented themselves to Lieutenant Ito, receiving a reprimand for not choosing to die honorably with their company. Just before facing execution, Lieutenant Colonel Kurabayashi arrived to clarify that the retreat was his order. He was horrified to find Mount Suribachi taken over after a fierce siege and ordered Ito to continue fighting until their last breath, much to the lieutenant's dismay. Saigo and Shimizu receive orders from Ito to join General Hayashi's troops in an attempt to reclaim Suribachi, a clear act of defiance against Kurabayashi. Although they can't locate the general, the troops advance but fall into an enemy ambush, resulting in many casualties. Ito returns to the caves to scold the remaining men, but Nishi confronts him, revealing that Kurabayashi countermanded Hayashi's orders. Frustrated with staying behind, Nishi disobeys orders and heads to the front, later instructing his men to leave him as he plans to sacrifice himself by destroying an enemy tank with a bomb. Meanwhile, Kurabayashi is disheartened by news of Hayashi's unit's suicide, and a letter from headquarters stating that no reinforcements will be sent, hoping the soldiers will fight to the death for Iwo Jima. During a shootout, Nishi discovers an injured American soldier named Sam and brings him inside the cave, showing compassion and speaking fluent English he learned during his time in Los Angeles. As they bond over a shared picture and a handshake, Shimizu confides in Saigo about his draft story, involving an incident where he avoided killing a civilian's dog and was discharged from military duty after just 5 days as a military policeman. Meanwhile, Kurabayashi reminisces about receiving a prized 1911 Colt .45 pistol at a U.S. country club party in the 1920s, celebrating the Japanese-American alliance. Shortly thereafter, Sam passes away, and Nishi reads a heartfelt note from Sam's mother, which inspires the men. Suddenly, another bombing raid blinds Nishi with shrapnel. Feeling useless, he orders the company to evacuate, transferring command to Lieutenant Okubo. After bidding farewell to the men, he waits for them to leave before taking his own life. Later, Shimizu confides in Saigo, expressing regret for believing Americans were savages. The pair attempts to surrender and escape the unit due to dysentery, but Okubo sees through their ruse and shoots another deserter. Shimizu is discovered by U.S. troops, joins a fellow captive soldier, and discusses their post-war future, only to be heartlessly executed by a U.S. soldier out of fear. Okubo's unit later discovers Shimizu's lifeless body, shocking Saigo. By morning, they reach the caves where Kurabayashi is located, but they are ambushed by surrounding U.S. Marines, resulting in Okubo's death. They present themselves to Lieutenant Colonel Kurabayashi, but find their hideout lacking supplies. Kurabayashi recognizes Saigo as the soldier from Ito's company, and thanks him for saving his life twice, noting that everything seems to come in threes. While writing a letter to his wife Hanako, a first-class private is tasked with digging up worms for food. He strikes up a friendship with Kurabayashi, both feeling inspired after hearing a radio song dedicated to Iwo Jima soldiers. During the counterattack, Kurabayashi instructs him to remain behind and burn all military documents, marking the third time the lieutenant colonel has saved his life. Armed with bayonets, Kurabayashi leads the unit into a nighttime battlefield, resulting in heavy gunfire that claims most of their men and severely wounds him. Lieutenant Fujita finds Kurebayashi and pulls him to safety. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Ido, aimlessly wandering after abandoning his suicide mission, is captured by U.S. Marines. The next day, a badly bruised Kurebayashi implores Fujita to end his suffering with a sword beheading, but Fujita is fatally shot by a U.S. Marine sniper. Shortly after, Saigo arrives on the hill after burying a bag of letters he found in the caves. Seeing Kurebayashi, the lieutenant colonel asks Saigo to bury him somewhere undiscovered. Kurebayashi remembers a moment when he drove through the American desert, telling his son he was going home and inquires if they are still on Japanese soil. Upon Saigo's confirmation, he takes his own life. Just before Saigo prepares to bury him, U.S. Marines arrive and check Fujita's body, finding Saigo, who becomes hysterical when one of the soldiers takes Kurebayashi's prized pistol. Knocked unconscious, he later awakens at the docks, receiving medical treatment alongside other injured soldiers. As the sun sets, he smiles, grateful for his survival. In the present day, the research team has completed their excavation underground and uncovered the bag of letters that Sato had buried many years ago. As the letters are brought to light, the voices of the courageous soldiers contained within them come to life. These letters would go on to be examined by historians and carefully preserved in Japanese archives for posterity. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the movie. Are you looking forward to finding out how the story unfolds? Do you have any predictions about how it might end? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this recap, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more, and feel free to share it with your friends and family. Check out our channel for more movie recaps that suit your preferences, and don't forget to turn on notifications to stay in the loop for our upcoming videos. That's all for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.